Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whoever it is in the world. You are streaming here on Twitter. As always, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you better believe it. Curious to see how the technology fails today. We usually make it about 20 minutes before some issue comes up, but I got good feeling about today. I'm on a different Wi-Fi. I'm not using the microphone anymore. Will StreamYard somehow survive this upcoming 60-minute session? What's happening? Talk to me, people. It's been 48 hours. Allow you a couple of minutes to get up in this chat. 2-game slate in the NBA tonight. Kind of quiet. NBA Cup week is kind of quiet, is it not? Doesn't make for good content when your show is designed to preview the action when there's only 2 games and there's like NBA Cup. I guess the Lakers are playing and Thunder are playing too, but are people watching this for NBA Cup exclusively? Probably not. Probably not. What's going on? All right. Chat starting to fill up here. Welcome in, everybody. Am I still comparing Buenos Aires to Barcelona? You asked that question as if the tone of which I read that suggests that is blasphemous. They share a lot of influence in culture. The streets look similar. Now, I would say Barcelona has La Rambla, which Buenos Aires does not, but that's neither a good thing or a bad thing, just makes it a little bit different. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty similar. No tone. No tone. Yeah, I have it. My updated list after being here for the past week, my updated list of most livable cities that I get the impression I would be happy in based on a small amount of time spent there. Lisbon's going to be number 1 probably forever. Lisbon, Tokyo, Barcelona, 1, 2, 3, Buenos Aires, 4, Copenhagen, 5. Copenhagen would be higher if, 1, the sun didn't set at 3 o'clock during the winter. It's not really that cold, but it's in the 40s. Things are expensive. But other than that, Copenhagen is fantastic. But I have to demote it just because of those factors. What's up, Cam? Pacers fan, in your opinion, who's a good center option for Hallie and Siakam next year? Like, what the Pacers are doing right now is so funny because they are incredibly sharp and they know they're not going to do shit this year. So they make that trade to get their pick back, which is now going to be legit. They're going to get a bunch of their guys back, Halliburton, Toppin, all the rotation guys that have been missing this year. But if I could hand pick a center to put on that team, which they obviously need, does it matter? Does it have to be someone that's available via free agency? Or does it need to be just name a realistic center that can be traded for? Like, what does it take to get a Vika Zubac? I don't even know if the Clippers would trade him, but I'm looking for an anchor of some kind. I'm not interested in Rudy Gobert. I think if you're going to play for Indiana, you need the ability to move consistently with fast-paced style. Now, Zubac, of course, is down on the block, give me the rock, but I think he's got enough versatility with those feet that he could survive in Indiana. So if you're asking me for my opinion and just name a guy, there's a guy that would put Indiana back in the conversation. What's up, Sam? I agree the NBA Cup feels quiet right now, just how things shook out, or would you like to see changes for next year? Well, how about this, by the way? So this is going to be the second consecutive night that there's a game played where the court is not going to be the NBA Cup court. It's going to be their usual traditional court. The reasoning for that is because some of these courts are being damaged and or players are reporting that they could be slipping on it. And they, out of an, quote, abundance of caution, the NBA has now 2 games in the quarterfinals without the courts. And while it's understandable because there's damage or issues to the wood, I would like to reiterate one of my biggest gripes. This show has become me with therapy talking to you, the therapists. My biggest gripes, as you know, is the consistency with branding when it comes to merchandising. And I'm just going to include courts in that too. So if you're going to go in with these incredibly bright, different courts, the Smurf turf of the NBA, you have to find a way to make sure it's at least consistent from start to finish. And it's outside of their control. They wouldn't have chosen for the courts to get damaged. But now that they're not there, and you're going to see one court that's colorful, one that's not tonight, how that breaks habit and ritual with fans in their aesthetic viewing experience is widely underrated. This is why so many people have problems with NBA teams wearing white uniforms on the road, because ever since day one, it's been white is associated with home, and then other teams wearing their traditional away or alternate uniforms, various colors. And then all of a sudden you just start going, road teams are wearing white, and I feel like I'm watching a hockey game. It was unnecessary for them to break that tradition. And it's also unfortunate now that they can't keep just putting these bright ass colors, which we'll always associate with the NBA Cup. So that's number one, Sam, that it being fragmented is going to, no one's going to tell the NBA this because they'll just turn the channel and be apathetic towards the product. Apathetic people do not leave Yelp reviews. Apathetic people do not leave Yelp reviews ever. They just go about their business. They either had a decent time, a poor time, and they go on with their day. And a majority of viewership is treating the NBA Cup, I would feel like, apathetically compared to what the original goal was, the intrigue. Now, the games themselves have delivered. If the product is good, if the basketball is good, people will find it. I think the players have done their part in making this feel like a little bit different than a regular season game. But it has only been going on now for what? 2 years, 3 years, third year. It's going to take decades before we start including, for example, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He wins regular season MVP, Finals MVP, NBA champion. There will be a time, we'll call that the treble, that you do all of that and you're also NBA Cup champion. But no one is there as of 2025 because nobody cares yet. But they may one day. I guarantee the FA Cup, whenever it started in the late 1800s in England, the Copa del Rey in Spain, the first couple of years, how many people actually cared about it? How many people actually cared about the UEFA World Cup that happened this past summer? There were some big name teams. The Club World Cup. It was like Champions League of the entire world. But nobody cared more than just UEFA Champions League because that just has prestige and has spent so much time building that brand with the audience that it matters. The NBA Cup just doesn't matter yet, and you can't throw enough money at it for people to care. You can get the players to care because now they're playing for the guys at the end of the bench, and I think that's the difference in the competition level. Good job on that. But there are billions of dollars that the NBA makes in revenue is not going to solve this lackadaisical or apathetic stance that fans have towards the accolade of being an NBA champion. Long-winded way of me getting to the point that's we just got to give it a little bit more time to see how people react. What's up, Marlo? What do you guys got tonight? Let me put this on in the background. So give a shout out to our partners. If you guys have any recommendations, we're looking at some big lines here. 15.5 between the Suns and the Thunder. Can Colin Gillespie do it again? Can Colin Gillespie, with no Devin Booker, do it again? If he beats the Thunder, statue immediately. Got the Spurs and the Lakers. Wembanyama took his time coming back. And I think I understand why, because if Wembanyama doesn't play tonight, they're going to have, and they lose, they're going to have an extra 5 days off to get him right for the next game. So as much as he probably wanted to come back, this feels like a spot where let's just be safe. But yeah, I'm looking for recommendations on what you guys wagered on. A realistic center. Oh, there you go. Walker Kessler, but Walker Kessler's hurt. Derek Lively II. That was unfortunate news. He's going to have season-ending surgery on, was it his foot? And that team, that franchise is just cursed. Did that make sense, Sam? Now, Sam, if the Knicks win the cup, we're clearing the Canyon of Heroes. John Starks' performance in the 94 finals will finally be vindicated. The NBA Cup becomes the most important. If my team wins, it's the most important thing. But if they don't, then I don't care. That's the way this works. No, we cannot all agree to end the cup after this season, Rakajiji, because Amazon Prime has paid billions, plural, of dollars to be the broadcaster for it, to be able to distribute, promote it, to make it a thing. And based on reports that came out this week, the viewership numbers for the new broadcast networks, and this includes Disney as well, being the incumbent, is up significantly compared to years past. Now, I'm curious, the chat, why is it that more people are watching? Is it because it is on network television with NBC? Is there a renewed sense of desire to consume studio content, like the pregame and the postgame and the halftime show with different talent and different ways of transmitting content is kind of what I'm getting at here. There has to be a reason why those figures are up so much. Now, it helps when you've got OKC versus Houston opening night. You got the Lakers on there all the time. Amazon Prime, the accessibility for most younger generation is just a couple of clicks away because everyone is streaming now. Is it the accessibility to the product? Is it the basketball is better? Do you prefer offense to defense because they're scoring a ton of points nowadays? What is it, in your opinion, that would be the reasons to believe that viewership is up so much? Because honestly, last year looked a lot like this year. They're still calling as many fouls. There's some really damn good games, some big star moments. There's scandal off the court. They're hitting the formula, the WWE formula, perfectly. I think people just wanted a little bit of a change. We haven't seen Inside the NBA on the air since November. Did we just kind of like forget about them? ESPN decided to say, we'll see you Christmas Day. We'll see you Christmas week. And no one is, I still enjoy the program. A lot of the younger generation does not. It's been a part of my life for 25 plus years when it was just Chuck and Ernie and then Kenny, eventually Shaq, Chris Webber. But maybe people are just inspired with something different. Everyone likes a shiny new toy, right? What's up, Helwick? I have no care about the cup. I'd rather lose the final than win, honestly. That makes no sense. Why would you rather lose the cup? At some point, you're going to want to be able to fall back on, we won the NBA Cup once upon a time. And if your team wins the cup, your players are happy because they're all getting paid a lot of money. But I know you're not walking around the neighborhood bar flexing and being like, we're NBA Cup champions. Do they print the shirts NBA Cup champions the same way they do Super Bowl winners? I don't think so. We can't even hold here's the NBA's problem is they can't even hold a parade to celebrate it properly if they're trying to make this a real thing because they're busy playing games a couple of days later. When can someone answer me this? When do they normally celebrate the FA Cup and Copa del Rey? Because those tournaments end before the league is finished, if I'm not mistaken. Or do I have it reversed? When do soccer teams in Europe, do they wait until the entire campaign has concluded and like, oh, we won the FA Cup a month ago, let's parade now that the season's over? Do they do like delayed parades? I guess that would make sense. Rocco wants me to take +7 on the Spurs tonight. I am a little interested. A little. I need to be convinced, though. Colin Gillespie over 15.5 points. Max picks. Okay, let's hold on before I get back to the comments. Gillespie's 15.5. Oh, it is against OKC. So if you take any over, if you're taking any over, it's 14.5. 14.5 on ProfitX. Any over against OKC, you're running the risk of everyone getting benched in the fourth quarter because of a blowout, and you're going up against one of the best defenses of all time, of whom will be very focused on this man who has been filling up the box scores in Gillespie. I wish you well, but I cannot join you ever betting an over against OKC. It's only unders usually for me in most prop bets. Nolan says, hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Rich Paul saying the Lakers aren't a contender. Ooh, so that was spicy. Let me come full screen for this one. May I introduce to you media member Rich Paul. So if you are doing a debut episode of a podcast, what better way to start cooking the books of the algorithm than saying the Lakers aren't legitimate contenders when you represent LeBron James? Whoa. Okay, now there's a lot of context to this that I want to go over. Anyone that's ever started a podcast before will know the first episode always gets platformed by like Spotify and Apple. You're high up on the charts. Your debut episode always gets a little extra juice from the algorithm so that you screenshot it and say, oh, look, I'm number 7 on Apple's charts. Or we have a hit show, and it just encourages you to continue making episodes and content as you eventually regress back to the mean. That's all by design because they're just manipulating people's brains. Okay, so keep that in mind. Number 2, Rich Paul and Max Kellerman obviously have a show to deliver that they're intending to be popular and listened to often. So bringing up hot button topics like LeBron James and the Lakers isn't obvious for your first episode. Number 3, Rich Paul, as I just said, with his Clutch Sports affiliation, is looking out for the best interest of his client more so than any NBA franchise, because that's the business he's in. He's not a general manager. He's an agency head. Number 4 is remembering that Rich Paul has essentially been replaced. I was about to say kicked out, but replaced by Bill Duffy and WME, which is a separate agency, a rival agency. Bill Duffy represents Luka Doncic, and once this season ends, Bill Duffy is essentially going to go to Luka and say, pick your team, and I will broker everyone that you want to play with to end up on the Lakers, because the Lakers are going to have a ton of money available. They did this by design, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons why Luka signed that extension when he did, not just because of the money, but because I get to be this player general manager, contributing my consultation and insight in regards to who the Lakers have on the roster next year. Rich Paul's influence has waned significantly now that LeBron James is headed to unrestricted free agency for the first time in his career. So now it's kind of like, Rich Paul, thanks for everything, but you're not the one calling the shots around here anymore. So what a better way, considering all 4 things that I just said, to start off your media venture than, I don't want to say throwing the Lakers under the bus, but he would never, ever have said that if he knew LeBron James was locked up with the team long-term, wasn't going to be playing the field when it comes to optionality this summer in regards to what he's going to do next, whether in the NBA or something else, which suggests to me like we are complete free agents in every aspect of the term. So I'm just going to speak my piece. And by me coming out and saying the Lakers aren't legitimate championship contenders, it checks every box. It's a way for me to tell the world we are open for business. And oh, by the way, this podcast is going to be a separate venture too that you should give us a ring about. Thought it was a brilliant move from Rich Paul if his intention is to push whatever individual agenda he has for himself as well as LeBron James. Once again, would have never, ever said that, ever, if LeBron had long-term plans with the franchise. He may ultimately return, he may not. But that just speaks to the lack of influence that Rich Paul has within that front office, that there will be no repercussions from him saying this team isn't good. If LeBron was locked up and he was still funneling clients to Rob Pelinka, of course, this team is just one or two pieces away from winning a championship. They got the great LeBron James over there. And I'll be the one to make sure that you hire my players and continue to get them gigs. Come to me because I have all the influence with the Lakers. If you're a player out there who needs a gig, needs a job, or wants to play in LA, you come to me. Not anymore. You go to Bill Duffy. Did ESPN cover the Cup last year? Yeah. Sam says, bias aside, the Knicks winning in MSG partying news coverage is probably the best thing for the Cup. Yeah. They need Lakers-Knicks. They need Lakers-Knicks final. We just saw Orlando this weekend. They're going to be without Franz Wagner. You know Desmond Bane is what's up with Suggs, by the way? I don't remember if he played last night. I know he got banged up against the Knicks too, but this will be the fourth time that we have seen them, and it's just December 10th. What's up, Vegan Barbie? Oh, responding, saying definitely accessibility to NBC and Prime makes it a lot easier for her specifically to watch the NBA versus maybe some of those other channels that required an old school traditional cable package. I get that. It being on NBC makes life so much easier. Network and gambling for Fiesta Carabana. What's up, Fiesta, in the chat? That was in response to, once again, what explains the pop in viewership. Feels like there's more parity now outside of OKC, which makes less blowouts and more competitive games. Well, I guess there's parity second through 10th in the NBA, but first place is, well, and Denver's still in the class of OKC. They are the only ones. Houston is on the verge. They need to make a trade for a point guard, and they need to get Dorian Finney-Smith and Tari Eason back. Denver's the only team that I think can push a series to 7 games against OKC. They are just so much better than everybody else. And once again, this not being March Madness, there are no flukes in the NBA. You may get OKC in game 1 by surprise because you shoot 50% from three-point land, but that is just not sustainable. That defense will average out, and you will be doomed. Ted Knight asks if Maxi's going to be first team All-NBA this year. So there was someone who tweeted out all of the names of guys that are on pace to not qualify for the 65-game minimum for end-of-season awards. And it's like, obviously, a ton of major names, are we headed for like Cade Cunningham, first team All-NBA? Are we headed for Jalen Brunson? Well, first team All-NBA seems ridiculous, but then you get Tyrese Maxey might end up on second because who the hell else? Luka, and no, there's obviously no Kyrie, no Halliburton, no Dame, all of these guys, John Morant. Now even Victor Wembanyama's fallen off the pace. He may come back at some point, but may not qualify himself. J-Dub. Does All-NBA matter anymore? Is it going to lose its prestige because of the 65-game rule? That no one gives a shit because there's going to be this general understanding that all the good players didn't play enough games. All-NBA, I once considered more valuable as an accolade than an all-star appearance, especially back in the days when it was based on position. You had to be one of the three best at your position. And now with the long Kawhi Leonard and God, nobody is eligible for this thing. Obviously, Anthony Davis gone, LeBron gone. I don't know, man. Had this conversation with Antonio on the show today, and he was telling me in the barbershop, you never bring up like all-star appearances, all NBA recognition in arguments when you're talking about legacies. But what if Victor Wembanyama plays 25 years in the NBA? We get to the point we need to have the conversation about him being the best player of all time, which I think he has the potential to do. But because of the 65 game rule, he only has half as many defensive player of the years, half as many MVPs, half as many all NBAs as Kareem, Jordan, and LeBron, because he plays on average 62 games per year. That's 3 below the requirement. 62 is still a lot, but it's not 82. And I did take it to heart when I heard Antonio say, man, that's not enough for me. Like playing 82, you cannot be considered one of the greatest of all time unless you are playing 82 games consistently. So then during the break, we went to look into the names that popped into my mind recently, like MVPs and how many times they played 82 games. I thought of Westbrook, Kobe, Garnett, and not Giannis, not Harden, not Jokic, somebody else. And each of them, like Kobe, Westbrook, and Garnett, it was between 4 and 7 times throughout their career they played in 80 plus games, really. 80 plus. And they were around a long time. Evo says, for gambling, extended options like peer-to-peer on ProfitX in states that are illegal. Or wait, still illegal for sports betting. Got it. Thank you for the free plug, Evo. Shout out to our partners at ProfitX. Making life easy over here. Okay. FA Cup is at the end of the season. Okay, got it. Thank you. That's a good point. Raka says, I know most people don't watch Inside the NBA for basketball analysis, but Shaq and Chuck openly admitting to not watching games hurts their show. That is a very fair comment. Because I watch Shaq and Chuck because I find them hilarious. I love their skits. I like how they view the world, not taking things too seriously. They laugh at jokes. They create content that I find funny. But for someone that hasn't been watching them the last 25 years, that gravitates more towards the X's and O's, because I'd say that audience exists a lot more now than it used to. There is a desire for, pure basketball talk. That audience grows a little bit more and more. And Inside the NBA is a standard bearer of the antithesis, because they don't even know the names of the guys. They do a segment called Who He Play For. They don't even know who plays for what team. So I would suggest maybe there's a middle ground there that they can spend, but they're just not going to do it. They've been doing this show for so long. If they say it's our time to leave because the world is moving on without us, they will be more than happy to say goodbye. But I will agree with the newer audience. I don't think Inside the NBA will land the same way that it did for me and more of a millennial generation. Sam from Light Years All, but confirmed licensing is why playback shut down. You were right. Yeah. For those of you that didn't come in here on Monday, let me just repeat myself really quickly. There was an app called Playback, which is a way for communities to watch NBA games, right? You authenticate with your League Pass subscription, and then you can sit in the chat with someone on screen who's commenting and whatnot. It's pretty obvious. And the site shut down, and it's why these sites will never work. It's not because the product was gorgeous. The people running it are very smart, but it requires licensing rights from the leagues that permit you to broadcast those games on your network. So when Amazon Prime, NBC, and Disney start to see Playback becoming more and more popular, We paid billions of dollars for the exclusivity to these games. Stop letting them mooch, even though they are requiring NBA credentials, which helps you. It doesn't help us. And we're the big paying partners here. So shut them down. Pull the license the moment that contract expires. Now, what solves all of this? If Playback was funded with billions of dollars as opposed to millions, they could go to each of those partners and say, we will pay 10x multiple for you to give us a sub license for another year or two. And they just keep spending and spending and overpaying and overpaying. They'll never make any money, but at least they'll be allowed to exist. And then they'd start accumulating data and pivot in their business model into something else. But these sports simulcasts will never survive because when they get big, the licenses get pulled and you're always at the mercy of the leagues and the networks. When they decide we don't like this, we treat you or consider you competition, you're out. And they're out. And the site just goes down like this despite building something that a lot of people enjoyed. Those business models are doomed from day one. And oh, by the way, there's still a shit ton of people watching sports illegally through all of the obvious, the stream meets, the crack streams, the TV apps, like hundreds of thousands of people. It is such a fractured market, and you're always going to have to overpay. I just don't ever see how that turns into a viable business model unless funded with gazillions of oil money dollars. Rich Paul did two things, says Evo. Algo hack plus bacon, early excuse for Lakers not winning the chip. Good way to start a podcast. What's up, Shaden? Oh, Suggs played last night. Okay, so he did return after getting banged up against the Knicks. He's a tough guy. I don't like the Magic very much because they are turning into Knicks adversaries, and they're worthy adversaries. I don't like having a punch down, but they're there. So we'll see what happens in Vegas. Shaden says, any teams you could see beating OKC in 7? Just Denver. Houston right now would take them to about 6. I think they can get 2 wins off of them, especially considering what happened opening night. But they need a point guard. They need to go get Harden. They got to get Harden back somehow. If they get Harden, they're in the conversation. Harden's best position is point guard. Distributor. Curry, I don't need him just going off the dribble and chucking all night. You got Kevin Durant for that. Denver's doing this without Christian Brown or Aaron Gordon. They almost did it last year with Aaron Gordon on one leg. They required a Julian Strawther game in Game 6. Historically bad bench that went from net rating of like minus what? Hellwick, you would know this. What was it, like minus 18 all the way up to practically net 0 when Jokic comes off the floor now. That's the improvement that they've gotten with Tim Hardaway Jr., Cam Johnson, Bruce Brown, Jonas Valanciunas. They have guys that can hold the line and get Jokic a couple minutes of extra rest. Wagers tonight. I don't have anything at the moment because there's only 2 games. We were looking into Colin Gillespie. I would look towards this game in particular right here because there will be over-under of 241. Luka 33. You can get such a better number on Luka live. Reeves, that's pretty good. Where's LeBron at after that? You knew he was going to go off. 18.5 for LeBron. Don't love that. What else is here? Marcus Smart's coming back, isn't he? Can we get an under 5.5? Marcus Smart under 5.5 would be my lean, but I have no action on it. Potentially on a minutes restriction, I assume. Let's reduce the season to 70 games already. So that's not going to happen because they're making too much money on the 82. It's also not going to happen because the NBA, we discussed this earlier too. The NBA has built in an excuse for NBA players to be able to sit 17 times. They are, in a way, incentivizing them to sit 17 times throughout the year. The example Antonio used on the show was, we're used to a 5-day work week, right? Monday through Friday. What if every single boss in America said, you know what? We're changing our work week from 5 days to 3.5. Because that's essentially the ratio of what happened in the NBA. Every single employee is going to take that extra day and a half off because they are allowed to. I would now like to ask Mikal Bridges to tell us why it's so important to play in all 82 games, something that he has done for the entirety of his career to be an Iron Man. Because nowadays, playing 82 games is not the badge of honor that it used to be. Why is that? Do kids these days not care about availability? I don't know. But I don't see it getting discussed. And it's certainly not being prioritized by the players. Means, okay, you guys are arguing about the playback. Too much sauce says playback was like when people had YouTube TV and seemingly every channel for just $65. They come for you eventually. Okay, so the business model of streaming, though, was to undercut cable. So when you were paying Spectrum, Comcast, Cablevision, Optimum, whomever, you were getting charged what? Let's just call it $80 per month for all of the channels, the AMCs, the A&Es, the ESPNs, all the above. So then they come in, they undercut the same way Uber was undercutting taxi prices so that you downloaded the app and you used them and they changed your habits so that now they are the taxi. And once they have a big enough market share, they jack up the price regularly and or slowly but surely. And that's what's now happened, as they are essentially as expensive as cable once was. This is the big tech business model from the start in most industries. But in regards to the licensing, if you are going to design the next playback, you have to get like a 10 to 15 year license from the NBA and Major League Baseball and whomever they were working with. Not 2 to 3 years, 15, so that when the network partners get disgruntled, they can't do anything about it. But yeah, they got big. They were starting to get big enough that all it takes, and know this about media, because I deal with this when I start working for more red tape corporate shops. There's so many executives. There's so many chefs in the kitchen. There's an SVP of not Scott Van Pelt. There's a senior vice president of like talent management. Then there's an SVP of creator influence. Then there's an SVP of marketing. And all it takes. So first of all, they all have to agree for things to get done, which is why those major networks move like molasses and they're always the last to the party, because so many people have irons in the fire and they have their own agendas on. They're all trying to get promoted, right? So maybe I should sabotage someone's good idea, and shit just takes time to get done. My point is that I lost my train of thought for a second. My point is those major networks are always going to find ways to prioritize internal projects and internal agendas, internal ambition at the expense of anything that is creative or that makes sense. You do make sense, but guess what? We're still not doing it anyway because it doesn't benefit X, Y, and Z that I represent. That shit happens all the time. And all it takes is one of those SVPs for the whole operation to either collapse or come to a halt or have a yellow flag, if we want to use a racing analogy. Everyone's got a fucking opinion, man. Everyone's got an opinion at these media executive jobs. You'll never be able to please them all. This has now turned into therapy for me. You'll never. I'm apathetic towards it. I've stopped caring, but trust me, I know you're never going to be able to please them all. Don't even try. The Wolves trading for Rob Dillingham now. What do you mean? The original trade for Rob Dillingham? It's still early. And what do you do with Anthony Davis? Ugh. God, what? He's like, just send him. You know what? Just send him to Chicago. Let him play at home. At least those fans that their team is inevitably going to finish in 9th place again. They stink again. They have always stunk, by the way, despite the hot start. Vooch is an instant. If Vooch is on your team, it is guaranteed play-in tournament. He's like just good enough to be a starter, just skilled and talented enough to be out there, but a complete liability defensively. Doesn't move the needle compared to other greats. And you're just going to be in 9th place considering how much he makes. So just send Anthony Davis there. And let's just have some fun with the hometown kid, the first real one, I guess, since Derrick Rose. AD's feels like reaching the end of the road, despite still putting up some numbers and being talented. He only has so many miles on the odometer left. What does AD's market even look like right now? Is he seen as a positive asset if he's unsigned? Like, are you giving up future assets to acquire Anthony Davis, which just makes the Luka transaction even worse? He's just too banged up. Mikal will always be undervalued for his Iron Man streak, says Danny. Yeah. He makes a point to play in every single game. And I would like to hear from him why he's so adamant when he does have those 17 games at his disposal. And not a single person would ever diminish his accomplishments because he takes a game or two off. Everyone else is doing that. Everyone else is doing it too. Seth says, NBA would never go that long for a licensing term. The risk of losing out on potential money for locking in that long is something they would never do unless the contract terms has measurement adjustment periods every 3 to 5 years. You make sense. That's why I said if you're Playback or you're any of these future companies thinking about building a community-driven second screen viewing experience, you have to have a locked-in deal even before you start building the tech. I told you guys about Buzzer as well, and I wish that worked out because the guy who founded it, Bo Han, one of the best dudes in the industry, super sharp, and is responsible. The two most important people in NBA content creation are names that you've likely never heard of: Bo Han and TJ Adishol. Those two at Twitter just hit the nail on the head in every way possible in regards to cultivating community, in growing content, in building Twitter into a tool for the sports fan to be able to create content and transmit discourse. Those two in addition to Brittany Cranston as well, the old Twitter regime had this entire department of people that knew exactly what was necessary for that particular platform to be the home base for live sports reaction content creation. They consulted creators all the time. They brought you in, they would find out what drives you, how to help you, provide you with resources, how to platform you in particular communities. And they foresaw a lot of what the internet would eventually become, which is why Twitter had such a head start on everybody but Instagram, and why they were so influential in building monoculture for so long. Bo Han eventually left Twitter to go start his own company called Buzzer. And what Buzzer was a platform that aggregated sports rights. So you could log into Buzzer and click the sport that you wanted to see. I think he had the NBA. He may have had NHL or NCAA something. I don't remember specifically. But you would process a micropayment, like 99-cent flash deal if you want to watch the end of Celtics versus Wizards. You pay 99 cents, and because he had the licensing rights, it would appear on your phone, crystal clear HD. The business model makes sense, but when I remember speaking with him about it at All-Star Weekend in Chicago, I'm like, Bo, I think you're underestimating, one, how many people are used to getting this content for free through the illegal sites, as especially back in 2019, 2020. And number two, what does your licensing contract look like? How long do you have the ability before someone recognizes you've built an aggregation tool legally and they get pissed off about it? And I think ultimately they too lost some of their licensing rights. They didn't have enough paying customers to be able to supplement and go after those deals. I don't know exactly what happened, but I have to think it was something along those lines. Bo Han, Brittany Cranston, who I worked with in New Orleans, by the way, at the New Orleans Hornets, and TJ Adeshola. Three incredibly important people in sports social media that were able to provide community building opportunities, and nobody knows who was at the forefront of all of that, because you just one day you log on and you kind of see the way things are going, but someone had to be the first. Someone had to push through the initiative at a publicly traded company. This is what we're going to do the next quarter, and who we're going to prioritize, what we're going to prioritize, and how we're going to separate Twitter's creative from all these other platforms that were popping up in the mid 2010s. Three brilliant minds that I personally will always be thankful for, because they helped me more than I think anyone not named Genie Bus. What else you got? Oh, Pete, no, nice. How do you ask a question after all that about Pete Alonso? This is a touchy subject. For me, Piazza and David Wright. Okay. David Wright was a Met for pretty much the entirety of his career. Mike Piazza, you could say the same, Dodgers, Marlins, but the important part was with the Mets. When he went to San Diego, it was towards the end of his career. It kind of felt like it was time. Jose Reyes hurt a lot. It hurt because I loved him and David Wright on my team in the 2000s so much. Seeing him wear a different uniform when he still had some left in the tank hurt. Pete Alonso is, I'd say, fourth on that list of like, man, that's a Met. That's a New York Met. What is he doing wearing those other colors? I don't like that he's going to have Baltimore black and orange on. And I don't blame him, because he's got to do what he's got to do. And honestly, he was on borrowed time with the Mets anyway, considering he was in arbitration for a year, and the Mets kept keeping him, just extending his contract one season because they could. So I don't blame him going out and getting that bag, but that man should be a New York Met. Everything that he's accomplished for the franchise, he should absolutely be a New York Met. Bummer. Tough to see him go. Diaz hurts as well. Are they going to play the trumpets in LA? Are they going to play the trumpets? I will be mad if they play the trumpets. That's also a Mets thing. Watching Mr. and Mrs. Met come out there with the trumpet. Come on. The Dodgers just have everything. They spend, they earn, I can't blame them. The Mets owner is busy buying a casino, building a casino in our parking lot. I miss that damn parking lot filled with a whole bunch of chop shops. Y'all understand Flushing, New York is just what it sounds like. Shea Stadium was a dump, but it was my dump. It was my dump underneath LaGuardia Airport where they would dump everything, dump all their sewage on top of it. It was a dump, but I love that dump. Northern Boulevard was filled with like auto repair shops, chop shops, pawn shops. And now it's got beautiful Citi Field. There's going to be some giant casino, which will also probably be gorgeous. Listen to me. I guess that's what it takes to have an owner that spends like he does. He's going to have to make his money back at some point. Just unfortunate. As you can tell, I don't need a lot in my life to be happy. I have just enough access to financial resources to be able to travel as a single guy, traveling with a family nowadays. Some of you have families. How do you take 5 people on a plane? It costs like $7,000 to go on a basic ass trip. This is why families can't go on vacations. It's expensive as fuck. But I'm a single guy that can travel at convenient times at my own luxury. So I get better deals and I have the time to shop around. But good grief. How do some of you, and that's why they only take 1 vacation per year. It's probably how most people can afford. But my point is, I enjoy being a minimalist. I like the things I grew up with. I wish I could have paused time in the year 2000. That was a great year to be alive. I love technology and everything about it, but we live in a capitalistic society and technology is going to continue to evolve and develop, and people got to make money, myself included. It is what it is. How was that for some deep shit? 10 more minutes, my friends, until we get ready for. I'm going to go get some empanadas at some point. It's 9:23. I'm playing tennis tomorrow at noon at the Racket Club in Buenos Aires, so I'm looking forward to that. Today, I did go on a Argentinian basketball talk show program on one of their 24/7 streaming services here. I've been going to the botanical gardens every day. Been eating some good food. Decent food. Went to a jazz bar last night. I like going to cities where I can walk around and get lost and just find something to do. Those are the best vacations in the best cities. I don't have a set schedule of like, this is going to be our TripAdvisor tour setup. I did one of those restaurant tours, which was great, but I'm just the type of guy that goes to a city, just starts walking around, and you'll be surprised as to what you'll find. I just entertain yourself so easily in the correct city, being able to do that. And Buenos Aires certainly qualifies. Did I see Manu's jerseys? Oh, yeah. They're everywhere. Deep stuff only hits during 1 a.m. streams. What do you mean? It's 9:24 p.m. here. That's late enough. Is that after hours content? Is there a time and place for that? There's no games tonight. There's only 2 games. There's no news coming in. Well, I don't think I'll be doing the post-game show on SiriusXM this upcoming season, so maybe we'll do a couple of post-game shows if it's the stars align. It's got to be a good reason to do one. I'm not just going to go live for the sake of going live. I'm too old and washed for that. They speak some English there. They do. Listen, hablo español más o menos. Comprendo español mejor que yo hablo español. Okay? I can understand Eliana Moreno. I can't speak like Eliana Moreno. So when I go to order something at a restaurant or whatever, I will sound like an American speaking Spanish, and then they will just respond to me in English. We can speak English if you'd like. I always found it rude if you just go up there and speak English and expect that someone in their own country is going to be able to do that. So I usually just wait for them to start speaking English as well. But they do, yes, I would say for the most part, pretty much everywhere I've been has had an English speaker in the Palermo neighborhood. But other than that, I think that's all I got. I got to go to a Liga Nacional game. I've been told that multiple times, but it's fun. If that soccer game was any indication, I learned that they don't allow away fans to Boca Juniors games because they will kill you. No, I'm not exaggerating. How many deaths they have had, it's now at the point no more away fans are allowed because of the fights and the altercations. People die inside that stadium like regularly. So no more of that. And I watched the game against Racing, the match against Racing, and that they showed shots of the crowd, and I'm like, how is that place still standing with how raucous that crowd was? And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of matches across South America in football. That shit was nuts. But I walked around that area during the day about 6 hours before kickoff. And yeah, people were already getting after it. Just got some food, had some drinks. I was at the Mercado de San Telmo on Domingo, Sunday. And then I just walked from there down to La Boca since 2012. Okay, well, that makes sense. You couldn't wear green in the one stadium when they had that Brazil Eagles Packers game because of an association with another club. Like just green in general? Was that the reason? Just because Gallinari's retired, Helwick, doesn't mean we're still not playing the saxophone if we ever bring it back. The saxophone will play regardless if Gallinari's retired or not. That doesn't change anything. Evo says it's the funniest thing unless you have their perfect accent. They just start speaking English, even if it's, that too. So Argentinian Spanish is significantly rapido compared to Mexican Spanish. They even faster. They also don't use tú, it's vos, and they don't use vosotros. So I'm like, well, okay, this makes no sense. But I sound like I'm trying to speak the other Spanish. So they're like, don't even waste your time. We'll speak in English. Also, LL is not calle. It is not llegar. It is SH. So it's like cache. Chegar. But it breaks my brain, Argentinian Spanish. It's because they're so influenced by Italian and German, the equivalent of Spanglish, which is Spanish and English. They have like Spitalian Ermine. That's their language. It's not as bad as Catalan in Barcelona. You might as well be speaking an alien language. I thought I'm in Spain. No. They speak Catalan. No Espanol. They speak more English than Espanol in Barcelona. I'm trying over here. I know my very basic Spanish, Mexican Spanish, missionary Spanish. All of these little different variations of it are confusing. All these different dialects, and they speak it so much faster down here. We use ustedes. Okay. So not lluvia, Wait, isn't it está lloviendo? It is raining. You're telling me and it's not lluvia, it's lluvia. Lluvia? Did I just say it's raining in Argentinian? How does Xiaoman do it on YouTube? The guy who knows all the languages. It's so hard. Not está lloviendo. Their LL sounds like sh. Right? So you must have been here too. What are you people saying? And now, are you saying El Coche? No, El Cache, the street. Okay, like that. Speak English. I'm trying to speak your Spanish. It's hard. It's muy difícil. Did you say muy difícil? Or is it something else? I'm trying over here. On that note, it has been a pleasure. Car is auto, not coche. I'm only here for another 4 days. I've been here for more than a week. So, as much as I would like to learn Argentinian, I don't think it's in the cards for me anytime soon. I'm going to go get some empanadas before this game tips off. I hope you guys had a fun time hanging out. I appreciate all the good questions. That was good. I enjoy those prompts when you're able to get my brain going about things within the industry and the way some of these businesses work, especially when we don't have games to look forward to, because usually there's a bunch of names coming in and out about who's going to play tonight. So I think we'll be back on Friday. Yeah, I'll be here on Friday. Back on Friday with another show. I'm supposed to actually go to an Asano on Friday, but maybe I'll do this first. Go through the injuries and the who's in and out, and then I'll go to the Asado. Yeah. So okay, same time, same place, Friday, and we'll have more to discuss, especially with some additional games on because they're getting out of the NBA Cup schedule. All the teams that didn't qualify for Vegas are going to be playing some games at the end of the week. There you go. Great opening line. What brings you to Argentina? Oh, I'm looking for a Spanish teacher. There you go. That's a good way to pick up. Women down here are gorgeous. Everywhere they're fucking gorgeous. What am I kidding? I've only been one place where I'd say the women were not good looking, and I'm not going to say what country it was. On that note, yes, Gigi's in the chat. I'm out of here. Adios.